So these meetings are always an invitation to exposure, to expose the self to the self. Yeah. To be willing for all the hiding places to be revealed. For all the places where we tuck away those parts that do not want to acknowledge perhaps a woundedness or aloneness or despair. Places where we cover up with some kind of sense of security or stability in order to protect us from the harshness of life, or the apparent harshness of life, or from being disappointed or from loss. These are the raw edges. Not that life is a place of aloneness or loneliness or despair or trauma or woundedness, but that which is perceived as that through life's apparent knocks and ups and downs and bumps are the very places that we often want to tuck away and leave unacknowledged because it just hurts too much. And so these layers of protection and defense that we accumulate through life's journey, that become a safety net, that become a comfort zone or a no-go zone, yeah? A place where we just won't go there. And this becomes so habitual that we don't even know that we're not going there. So it gets tucked into the background zone, the shadow zone. And there is a terror of that which remains in the background zone to be exposed. Yeah, so there's a protection game going on, a protection racket. So exposure, the very notion of exposure is a threat to that comfort zone. So then, why expose that which is so painful to expose when there is a safe blanket wrapped around ourselves? Yeah. When it's like a warm coat that we wear that's become so habitual that we don't even know that we're wearing it. Until there comes a time when that coat is no longer a cozy blanket, but a suit of armor. Until there comes a point where the burden of carrying that once cozy coat becomes just too much, becomes heavy, becomes dense. Because we've invested the self in that coat. we've started to believe that the coat is who we are. And occasionally little chinks of light come through the wear and tear of that coat. And we have an insight, or an opening, or an aha moment, or a release, or what we might call an awakening. And there are many awakenings, because probably many tears in the coat, many little gaps where the cold wind comes in, or the cold light of day comes in. And we call that an awakening. And then there's the desire to break out of this suit of armor. There's a sense of being imprisoned. It's become claustrophobic. There's a sense of wanting to bust out of those limitations. A sense that we're more than who we think we are, with the thoughts and beliefs and feelings and habitual reactions to the world, to life, that we once thought, this is who I am. There's a sense that I am more than this. But if awakening is to be truly transformative, then the whole coat has to come off. It's not enough to just have a little glimpse of the light through this buttonhole and that little tear where the stitches have come undone. The whole thing needs to come off. And that level of exposure is a threat to the false identity, to the ego, to the egoic self. It's like the whole structure needs to come tumbling down. What might be called the main pin, that which holds it all together, the main stitch, the main thread, needs to be pulled and unraveled, so that awakening is not just a chink here, a chink of light here, or a chink of light there. It's something much more radical than that. It's not a release, or an opening, or a glimpse, or any other accumulation of something better than what has been seen to be a limitation, or a prison, or a false identity. It's not a replacement for that. The whole thing needs to dissolve. So the level of exposure that's being called for, if that is your sincere direction of inquiry, is everything. Is to be willing for everything that has been up until now some kind of padding, a protective cushion, a protective blanket, an addition to what I call the spiritual shopping basket. Even if it's the idea of a more spiritual self or a more enlightened self, that's an addition. That's another form of cushioning. It's another form of finding yourself in that, which becomes not the truth of who you are, but an idea of who you are, or who you could be, or who you can be, or who you're striving to be. Everything, all ideas, all imaginations, need to come tumbling down, need to be unraveled. So that level of exposure is a raw place, one which asks you to be open to what is really here. To be open to what is here beneath and beyond the content of who you think you are. It's the contentless place, the place without content. And that's scary to the idea of a me, because the idea of a me is made up precisely of ideas. I am this, I am that. And those ideas have become habitual over time, and in becoming habitual, they're not seen to be ideas of who you are. They're seen to be the fact of who you are, but they're not the fact of who you are. They're not the truth of who you are. They've become rigidified, ossified. So awakening is radical. It goes all the way. It reveals that which has no content. It reveals that which is uncreated before creation, before you create yourself in any image of yourself. And then there is clear seeing that happens. Clear seeing is when the naked openness of who you are before any idea of who you are, when that naked openness meets reality. There's no overlay, there's no padding, there's no more need to beg or barter with life. There's no more need to manipulate life. There's no more need to pray or hope or wish or dream. Because all of those are ideas of how it should or shouldn't be. All of those suggest that reality is something other than what it is. That what is here is not reality. And so then there's a living in the imagination. And living in the imagination can never be truly fulfilling. Living in the imagination creates a huge defense barrier against what is here. It's very simple, really. Reality is what is here. That doesn't mean we don't grow and evolve and even learn and apparently move through life. There is still a sense of an apparent me moving through life. But it has a very different quality. It's not in opposition to reality. It's not trying to change reality. It's not even trying to get from here to there, from A to B. All of this, all this apparent movement happens inside the open space without content. Content is seen to arise within that which has no content. In other words, another way of saying it is that that which is perceived, that which is your experience, is seen to arise in consciousness. It's not that consciousness perceives what's outside of itself as life. The things in your life, the experiences of your life, these are not outside of you. They're all appearing inside you. Inside you, not as a me, but as consciousness. And even the me appears within consciousness. When this is known and lived and recognized, then there's nothing outside of you to pray for, or beg for, or wish for, because it's all unfolding now. There's nothing more even to expose, or to release, or to open to. So then the whole thing can stop. The whole searching for something other than what is here can stop. And the radical beauty of that is that that's when you truly start living. That's when life's intelligence can move through you. And all the riches, and all the fulfillment, and all the gifts, and all the blessings that are truly available as the movement of life through you and as you become apparent, become obvious, become natural. And they're beyond what has been imagined. They're not the riches and gifts and blessings that the small me imagines. Because it has nothing to do with anything being added to your life, or added to you, or improved, or perfected. It's not another accumulation. It is simply a texture, a new texture that was previously not seen, or tasted, or sensed, or imbibed, because that texture was covered up by that lovely warm coat that you thought was cozy and protective and kept you away from harm, but actually was a prison.